Hello, everybody, and welcome again to Procrastinator's Pit Stop. We have another amazing guest for you today. We are with Ashley Willis. Ashley is a passionate entrepreneur and digital marketing expert dedicated to empowering small businesses. With years of experience and a passion for education, Ashley helps businesses understand and implement effective SEO strategies. She's committed to providing personalized support and actual solutions to help her clients achieve their online goals. Ashley, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so happy to be here.
Well, we're happy to have you, and do have some questions as well because we're in the realm of SEO with yourself. But before we dive into that, we do like to have an icebreaker on this show, and the question for you today is: which cartoon character do you resonate with the most, and why?
Okay. So I would have to say from the movie Home, there's the main character, the girl, she's played by Rihanna. The name is too long to even try and pronounce. But the main character, I resonate with her because of her ambition and her drive. She gets pushed with a lot of different obstacles throughout the movie, but yet she perseveres them, right? She has a roller coaster of emotions, but yet she still gets to her end goal. And so it really resonates with me that regardless of wherever the journey is taking me, as long as I stay the course, then I'll get there.
Excellent. I like that one.
Yeah.
It's a good one. I like that one. I'd completely forgotten about that movie too.
Yeah, well, my kids won't let me forget. So that's why I keep on getting that lesson.
Well, there you go. Another reason, another little blessing from the kids there, right? What? Hey, at least it's not Frozen with Let It Go.
Yes, we have let that go.
Which is great because, yeah, I think it's time for everyone to let that one go. And just before we get too much further into everything here as well, how would you describe or define procrastination, Ashley? And what does it mean to you personally?
Yeah, so procrastination is something that I actively had to learn to get out of. And for me, procrastination aligns with my inner dialogue of fear. And not necessarily with fear of, a lot of people think of fear when it comes to like fear of failure, but actually I had to experience a little bit of both. Fear of failure, but then fear if I succeed and I'm not ready. So both of those things combined is what has gotten me through that, to do procrastination and to have that as my go-to, right? Instead of kind of staying the course and being productive. So that's kind of how I defined it and how it has showed up in my life personally.
And if you don't mind sharing, what were some of the things that helped you get over?
Yeah, so some of the things that has helped me and still actively, like this is an ongoing process. I don't want anybody to think that, I'm 100% over it. It definitely is an ongoing process. And with this, I feel that setting expectations and being consistent. And part of being consistent is showing up when I really didn't want to, right? For lack of better terms. So showing up when I am fearful, showing up when I am maybe uncomfortable. I call this the year of the season of doing the uncomfortable. It's the journey that I started this year. And so by me verbally speaking that into existence allowed for me to know like, okay, Ashley, I have to show up, right? If I say I'm going to do it, I have to do it. And if I'm feeling stuck or I feel like I'm starting to procrastinate, I have to figure out why and then take action. So that is what I try to do on most days, right? That's what I try to lean towards. So really just being consistent and moving through that fear.
No, I really like that approach, because you're looking at it from those different angles, right? You're looking at it from the reasons why, and that's actually one of the most important things to look at is the why, right? Because the why is what keeps us moving forward as well. Why don't you tell us a little bit? I'm interested to know, and I'm sure our audience is too. Why don't you let us know, your journey, sort of what got you to where you are today?
Sure. So there's a lot of, I guess on everybody's path of their journey, there's a lot of different turns and things that happen. But in short, what got me to where I am right now into the marketing space is I always had that entrepreneurial bug, I guess, if you will, always wanting to not necessarily be my own boss, but just have my own, right? Provide something that I can say was from me, something that I can pour into others. I can be of service to others, right? And so early on, since I can remember, I've had that drive, right? But really what led me to here most recently is having my own beauty brand. I come from the beauty space. So I always say that beauty and business, those are my two passions. And from working from other business beauty corporations to creating my own brand and being able to service women in my community, right? And being able to transform them has really been that passion that started of being of service to others. And from there, we had the pandemic, right? And it went from me being personable and person to person, in person, interactions, which comes natural to me, even though I'm an outgoing introvert. Being in that in person really helped me, right? But then when we had the pandemic, I had to pivot. And for some reason, well, I know the reason. It was had to do with procrastination, that fear, and not knowing what was going to happen, right? The marketing is where it failed, right? Not being able to reach people so quickly like I was in person and having a boutique, not being able to get the same traction of my online sales. Showing up in what I thought was the right way, which was on one social platform, but not knowing where my customers were, right? Not having my website set up where Google and other search engines, when people are at home bored looking up different things, it was working for me, not against me. So all these little things that I now know, that's kind of what stirred up the pot, if you will, for where I am today. And so coming out of COVID, I paused that business because, I still love that industry, but I know that if I was to pivot my business now, giving the knowledge that I know now, I will be very much strategic in what I do rather than trying to serve the masses, right? So a lot of lessons learned. So I will say that it necessarily wasn't a failure, but it definitely was a good lesson for me. And it also allows for me to now resonate with small businesses now, right? It allows for me to really understand their pain points, understand their frustrations, understand just the feeling of being overwhelmed and not knowing where to start, who to trust, where to put your money, starting with smaller budgets, just all of those different things that come upon us as business owners and entrepreneurs. And so when I was able to find and dive into this marketing realm, I was like, okay, I got to take my business degree and I got to land myself into something that will allow for me to help learn and then be able to execute in some way, right? And so working at a small digital marketing firm, they actually specialize in search engine optimization and more so on the SEO writing. And that was one of the first things I've learned during this journey is that regardless of the industry that you're in, everybody has their own lane, their own specialty, right? And so digital marketing is so big. There's so many parts. There's so many things, right? As a entrepreneur, small business, you're like, where do I start, right? But then also as a professional, getting their foot into the door, I realized that different firms, they're going to focus on what they do best, right? And not all the time do they have a all-inclusive type of, I guess, how can you say, outlook on things, right, to service their clients. So long story short, I was able to learn a lot. I fell in love. When I started learning, I was like, this is what I was searching, or this was my late night YouTube university, and I wasn't understanding, but to put my learning to action, to see how I can improve the customers and the clients' lives, right? Look at the data. I became very data driven. I took courses and certifications out of my job, and I really just dived into it. 'Cause I was like, imagine what could have been if I knew this information, and imagine how many people don't understand just the basics because they're intimidated by all these big words and terminologies, that even just a little bit of this, right? They'll be able to get so much further. And so that kind of dived me now till today, where I realized that there was a gap in the industry where I wanted to fill. And that is being able to service, right? Pour into the community when it comes to consulting, workshops, and trying to be a little bit more innovative in SEO. There's so much happening when it comes to the online space, right? Social media, AI, just all the things, everything is moving. So if we're stuck on something that worked a few years ago and we're not trying to be innovative, and we're not trying to try new things and look at the data and see what's working, what's not, then we'll kind of get stuck and left behind. And so that's kind of where I'm at now, where I am taking a holistic approach to search engine optimization. So your website and beyond, and really filling in those gaps within your marketing and helping you really be your own advocate when it comes to your business. And then also helping the marketing teams to kind of think outside the box when it comes to SEO and digital marketing in the online space as a whole.
Excellent. Thank you for sharing. I love how you said about those, setbacks or the failures. What really got me thinking about it is they are all just learning experiences. And actually the acronym FAIL, this comes from a choreography school out of the United Kingdom. When I was speaking to someone, I don't know if they came up with it, but that's where I heard it from. And the acronym for FAIL is first attempt in learning. So, as long as you're learning from it, you're really not, it's not really a failure. And, if we're being honest with it, and I told this to my daughter just the other day, that, you shouldn't be afraid of, falling down, because the masters have fallen down more times than, the novices even tried. So that's something to remember as well. Wanted to dig a little bit into what you were saying about the SEO, because I know that one thing that many small business owners are procrastinating is getting into SEO, because you outlined it perfectly, right? There's so many choices, so many companies, so many options, and nobody really knows where to start. Now, we know that there's no real silver bullet, but let's say if a business owner just wants to, start something that's going to be useful, where would they start?
Yeah, so that's a really great question. For me, I always say to start simple, right? So I can give you a few, which I'm going to give you some things, but don't get overwhelmed. So even if I give you 5 things that you can do, right? Start simple with these 5 things, right? So for example, one of the things that I always say for all businesses, especially when you are a solopreneur, when you are a small business, when you're just starting out, is connecting to data platforms, right? You can spend all the money in the world for your website. It can be the most beautiful site. You can spend all the money on copy. You can spend all the money on photography and all the things. But if your website is not connected to the data, then we're not going to know what we need to do. We need to gather data, right? So as we start to make our website live, we need to have our data tracking platform. So an example of that would be our Google Analytics, right? Our Google Search Console. And so to some, it might seem basic, but it's very important, because over time, we're able to use the data that starts to gather from there and then make data-driven decisions when it comes to the next parts, right? So the parts that follow. So that's one of the main things. And you'll be so surprised that this is something that a lot of people don't do because they don't know, right? Or they start and they're just frustrated because it's just not connecting. I've had plenty of those nights, right? When just certain things are just not working. And then you're spending hours trying to Google and watch videos, and you're trying to do the split screen and just all these things. And then you give up, you forget, and then you don't execute, right? Then we're in that procrastination where we're just like, forget about it, right? Or you might even hire somebody to do it, and then they might have missed a few steps in that process where you're not getting the accurate data. But that's one of the first things I would say, is to make sure you're connecting to your data tracking platforms. Also, don't sleep on Bing. When I do website audits, a lot of people, when I go over how many of their website pages are on Google, Bing, and Yahoo, they'll be surprised that organically they've been able to have their website indexed with a lot of pages on Bing. So people still use it. It might not be the popular one, but people still use it. So a tool for that would be Bing Webmaster. Now, my little tip would be to do your Google tracking platforms first, because when you go into and you search Bing Webmaster tool, it'll ask you if you already have those connected, and it's just like a click of a button to connect the two. So that saves you a lot of time. But yeah, I would definitely start with the data. I'm a data-driven person, so I would say do that first. Also do research. Okay, now you can utilize, once you have the data, you can then use some AI to kind of give you ideas, but having data-driven research done, competitive analysis, understanding what people are actually searching to find what you do or what you sell, right? So it does kind of go with your messaging and branding, but then it also is the person itself, right? The intent of the search is what I'm really big on, because ultimately that will determine how you can speak to them, how you can create content for them, and it kind of flows into the rest of your marketing, like content marketing, blogs, your social media, all the things, and it kind of flows in with your keyword choices and all of that. So those would be the things I would say to start with. And then let's say you have your data, you have what you think you want to use as your keyword or phrases, and then you want to utilize them throughout your site. And yes, on the front end, which is means where people see it, right? Where me as a consumer can go online and see everything, but also in the back part where we don't see, but the search engines do. And that's the most important. And that's what a lot of people forget, right? The search engines are the one that displays us. And so we want to make sure that we are what I like to call filed in the right filing cabinet in each search engine, so we show up and they can display us at the proper time. I hope that made sense.
No, yeah, that makes a lot of sense, and you know, it's interesting that you bring up Bing because I know Bing, especially in terms of the new AI search, they're saying that Bing is what's driving. I forget what the name was now. I think you know, the Microsoft AI,
Well,
and then there's
Copilot.
the Chat GPT AI.
Yeah.
And they're saying that you need to get those long tail keywords. But my question to you, and I'm sure many others, is, you know, let's say you have a, I don't know, like a makeup website that sells makeup. If you're going to try to rank for makeup, it's going to be a really high, you know, a really hard keyword to match because there's a lot of competition. Now, as you get down, you know, somebody has said, or many sources have said that, you know, the longer tail the keyword, the more likely is you'll rank for it. So is it better to just go after, you know, say 20 or 30 super long tail keywords rather than the one main big keyword, or should you do both at the same?
So I'll give, like, I guess, sort of kind of a traditional answer, and then I'll give you like my innovative way of it. Okay. So based off of the experience working at the firm, they go over a lot of, okay, so let's start. The phrases, right, can be redundant, right? So yes, you are right. Makeup, right? If I just want to rank for makeup, yeah, we are doing like Macy's and big box people have that covered. Sephora, right? They have that covered. If that word is showing up, yes. But thinking like the client or the person who's trying to buy our product, the longer tail keyword or that phrase, meaning what type of makeup that the person's looking for, what type of skin type is the makeup for, all those things, then that's when you start getting to the intent that somebody is searching for to buy a makeup product for XYZ, right? And so when you start thinking like that, then it's like, to answer your question, you want to go after the terminology that fits the journey of your client. Okay. That's my spin on it, is to, yes, you want to go after the terms that fit the intent of the person who is shopping for your item or for your services. The traditional way would be to rank for those long tail keywords, because in the addition to those long tail keywords, in addition to the long tail keywords, you will also have the root word in there. So it naturally will be there. But for me, I say, yes, do that. But think of the client, think of the person in who you are trying to convert. Why are they searching? What is the end goal? Are they just searching to learn what makeup is? Are they searching to buy your makeup product? Are they having acne breakouts and they want something that's hyperallergenic? Right now, we're getting into something a little bit more detailed, in which we require more planning. So that way, naturally, we can include. So, for example, let's say you sell a face powder, right? And you're like, okay, this face powder is oil free. Oil free. It's hyperallergenic. It gives a satin finish, right? So the person who likes dewy skin and is looking for a dewy look, meaning like that glossy, that shine, they're not going to want this product, right? Person who is acne prone, a person who wants a more natural finish, right? These are all keyword phrases. And these are all the phrases that I would use inside my product description. I might include one of the main description or term or phrase in my title and then also in my meta description. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that does make sense. Maybe just for the sake of everybody in the audience there, when you're saying the meta description, what are you referring to?
Yes, the great question. So there are a lot of descriptions on a product page, right? So when we go to enter in a product, 9 times out of 10, the first description that we do is called a product description. That is the description that actually displays on a website, right? The meta description is something that's not displayed for me as the consumer, the shopper to see, but rather it's like a mini summary or something that allows for me to read and be like, oh, this is for me. Let me click on the website that displays on your search results, but also communicates effectively with search engines. Okay. Now, here's the thing. If you don't go in and do that, 9 times out of 10, it will pull from your description. And what happens is if you don't have the most important things on the top, then they're not going to see it, or it'll be too long and then it'll have like those dots, which kind of breaks the user experience.
Yeah, thanks for breaking that down. Actually, that brings up another interesting question too. A little while ago, people used to be buying domain names that were misspelled, like Disney misspelled or Yahoo with a double H misspelled or things like that, to try and pick up on that traffic. Now, in terms of SEO, recently actually, I came across a website where they dealt with different pets and pet services, and they did like euthanasia. And their strategy actually included targeting the keyword euthanasia, but misspelled.
Mm.
Yeah. Now, from a from a paid ad perspective, I guess that maybe can work in some cases. But when you're talking an SEO perspective, I mean, to be able to rank for a misspelled word, don't you have to kind of misspell it in a lot of different places?
Yes. So this was actually one of the things that the firm I worked with used to do. However, the way I think about it is search engines, especially now during the AI era, they are intelligent, right? They know what we mean. So for an example, outside of misspelling, right? If I say find a coffee shop near me, right? But on somebody's website, it says coffee shop in Houston, Texas, and it has, let's say, maybe it even has the zip code of where I'm at, right? Just because they didn't use the word near me, but I am the person searching and I say near me, the search engine understands that my near me matches this person's geographic location. So therefore it's going to display it, right? Or think about when we do type in things misspelled, they don't just give us the misspelling, they give us the correct answer because they know, oh, did you mean this? Or we are searching for this. So my answer to that question would be not to waste time on that, right? To focus on the bigger things because of the advancement of search engines.
Just getting back to content and being able to rank. I know one of the things that a lot of small business owners, and I've been through this myself, I'm sure you have too. When you're first starting out and you're getting all this information, I mean, sometimes people really love to write, so they want to put out more written content. Sometimes people don't like to write, so they want to put out more maybe video content, or I think there was slideshows or other things. Is there any kind of content that is preferred? I mean, obviously not forever, but is there any kind of content, say for maybe, this year coming up that we should focus on that might be more beneficial?
That's a really good question. And I feel like it's a question that's on a lot of people's minds. People are strategizing, right? Trying to figure out should they spend most of their time. Now, my answer to that would be it really depends because it all depends on the industry, who's already ranking for, let's say, in that industry, and what content are they showing up for, right? Search engines are now, when you search up certain things, not only will a blog show up, your social media will show up in search results on Google, right? You have video, you have all the different touch points in which a client could like to receive their information. So for example, if I was to do some research to figure out what my strategy would be, I would look up certain terms for my industry in my area, and I would see who's getting the most traction. And then on that page, do they have a video? Do they effectively give the user who is searching for this said term the information, or are they missing something? Can I do something better? Can I do something a little bit more elevated to one, grab their attention, and two, grab the search engine's attention to display me. So an example would be if I was trying to look at my competitors and I was like, oh, they just have a blog explaining why small businesses need search engine optimization. So for me, I might create a blog, but I may include a downloadable guide or a checklist. I might include a video of me explaining it or showing some data showing this is what happens when the person just started and did SEO, basic SEO optimizations to kind of give them a little bit more, right? And I do say that there has been a lot of speak on interactive content, especially on Google. I'm still in that process of going down that rabbit hole to see, what part kind of would benefit, like if it's something that I want to do. And what I mean by that is I was reading on an article where it was saying that interactive content can be you're reading something, but then you do a quiz, right? While you're reading inside this blog, or it's something where you're doing a poll, right? Now you need software and things like that. Now that's more of the engagement part, right? So yeah, we want them on our website. We want them to grow and trust us, but then they want people to be engaged. So those are some of the things that I have been looking into, but ultimately in the simplest form is to see what's going on and see how you can show up and shine a brighter light on what you're doing and provide them more information in a more creative way.
No, that makes a lot of sense. Actually, that kind of branches into my next question too. I mean, we're all focused on, kind of on-page SEO and websites, and now with AI and I've sat on a few webinars, and some people like Neil Patel and some of these other big marketers. They've said some things that make me wonder, and I wonder your take on it.
Okay.
Is it really important to have all these things, like all these articles or all these videos or all these other things on your own website? Or is it better to kind of borrow I guess for lack of a better word, borrow the juice from, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, or these other places that might have a little more authority than your website in order to redirect back to your website?
So I think it can be a combination of both, right? So an example would be like I mentioned before, inside my blog, I could have my video. Then my video can be an embed of my YouTube, link, right? So that way I am pulling from there. But ultimately, I think it depends on how your user receives information, right? How the end user receives information and what they're going to engage with. But ultimately, one of the things we have to remember is that regardless of anything, all social platforms are not ours, right? So for me, on a business standpoint, I want to have something on my website because that's something that's mine. So a simple example would be I told a client recently, she's been getting a lot of press. And so when I did some research to see like how many backlinks and things like that she has, right? I'm like, you have a lot, but you don't have anywhere on your website that shows all the press that you've been doing, right? So simply, even though she has her breadcrumbs, like I like to call it, out in the internet space, where is it all leading back so that way people can view it on her website? Where's, her territory, her platform that showcase all these different mentions. And so something as simple as creating a media page, right? Or maybe she wants to break it up depending on what type of media she's doing, right? If she wants to have media for speaking in one page and then maybe her media for her one-on-one client on another, right? So things like that is the way that I like to be a little bit innovative in that instance. And it's funny that you mentioned Neil, because I do follow him. I do think that a lot of the things that he says as far as when it's going through a lot of these different changes, right? I love that he does a lot of studies. And so when you're looking at the data, I know he did one where it's talking about AI written content versus human, and then the combination of the two, which is what I've been saying since I started. And so to hear somebody that has such authority in this industry say those things is really helps to kind of drive a point home to people who are maybe not in the know. But yes, that's my take on it.
Yeah, and just swinging back to content for a second, sometimes you go to websites and they have these humongous articles that I mean are maybe good for SEO, but I mean no one's really going to read them, right? So how do you balance kind of those pages that you want to rank for, but you also want to give a better experience to your user. You don't want to, make them read a 10,000 word article all the time.
Absolutely. And that's kind of one of the reasons why I started my company, because I had a client that was at the firm that I worked with, and he was saying this exact thing. He's like, I see the numbers, I see the data, I'm getting traffic. He's like, but they're clicking, but they're not converting, right? So how come they land on this page, they get overwhelmed? He's like, I'm a pool guy. I sell pools. Where's the images? Where's the visuals, right? Where's the people that be like, okay, this is the pool that I want. Book a consultation, right? Where's the call to action? Where's the slides? Where's the interaction? And I was like, he's absolutely right, right? This is part of the innovation of SEO. This is a part of I always say, be human first, human interaction first, SEO second. SEO is very important, but if we're doing it just for search engines, again, search engines are more intelligent now than they were 10 years ago, 5 years ago. So we really have to make it interacting, like you said, because what happens is we get all this traffic to this long page, no images, no breaks in the system, no subtitles, no nothing. And then people click off. So they're not staying. And so therefore it's telling Google that it's not really important. People aren't really liking the information. Therefore, we're going to go to the next person and see if this website can give the person what they want. Does that make sense?
No, that makes a lot of sense, and it also lends into as well. This used to be a really old tactic, and somebody said, "Well, why don't you just make a bunch of those long articles and then just do a bunch of, like, what do they call them, like 301 redirects or something, like almost like doorway pages, and just have it really bounce from there right to the next page." Is that something that is advisable, or is that more in like the black hat, what they call the black hat or bad realm?
Yeah, that is something I wouldn't advise. And honestly, I feel like a lot of those is like when you're thinking too deep into trying to trick a search engine, right? And so I would utilize the energy and the time and the resources to be a little bit more strategic. Now, what I would say is I'm very big, which now when I speak about it, especially doing more interactions with explaining what I do, I realize that I'm not just a website SEO, right? When I focus on the content, as content marketing. It's SEO for social media. It's bigger than just the website. That's why I say it more innovative. But even when I speak on blogs, and they're like, oh, I'm putting up all these blogs. Yes, okay, but what's the strategy? And so that's where I think the links can come in, right? Because you do want an internal linking system, not necessarily the 304 or the 301s that you were saying, but you want to have an internal linking system. So for example, let's go back to that makeup company, right? If they have a blog on the top 5 products for oily skin, but yet they don't have their products linked into their blog or suggested outside people, that maybe there's something in their brand that they don't have that they can recommend somebody else's, right? They don't have any links coming in and out of that. Then yeah, that's going to be called, I guess, like a orphan page, right? It doesn't have anything going on but just the words. So to answer your question, if you're gonna do it, make sure that I like to focus on internal linking. And of course, internal linking, which means the links that are within your page, right? So I look at the menu tab and I'll be like, what's important to me? What's important that I want to have rank and authority, and I want search engines to know that these are important to me. And then how can I create a strategy, both on page, off page, that can drive traffic? And then I look at the data to say, okay, now that I'm getting this traffic, what do I need to adjust to get to the conversions, right? Or if I'm converting, okay, what else do I need to provide so I can continue to convert, right? Because it's a long haul. It's not one and done. So I definitely will look at the strategy as building blocks, but as the whole picture as well.
It's very interesting. There's certainly a lot for the small business owner to think about. This conversation has been really great, Ashley. Thank you so much for being here. As we're coming up close to the time, is there anything that you feel I should have asked and didn't ask, or anything that we didn't cover that you feel we should have covered today?
Not necessarily. I would just say that I know that search engine optimization, SEO, they even have other acronyms for it now because they have the AI version within it. I would just say start where you feel comfortable. And if you don't feel comfortable, then contact me so that way I can, fill in those gaps of where you're feeling uncomfortable, where you're feeling stuck, where you're feeling overwhelmed, and to help you get out of that. But just know that everybody should have their online space optimized so that way they can effectively get in front of their client, their customer, their guest, and who they're searching for, and not procrastinate on it. That's what I will win. Don't procrastinate no more on it.
Yep, that's very good advice. And just before we go, Ashley, what is the best way for people to get in touch with you?
Yeah, so you can follow me on social. So my social for most of my social platforms, Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube, is going to be Ashley, the SEO strategist. You can also email me. My email is let's with an S talk at SEO digital marketing online, and I'll be happy to assist and converse with you.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Ashley. And to all our listeners, don't worry about grabbing a paper and a pen. We're going to have that in the description for you. And once again, Ashley, thank you so much for joining us. And to all our listeners, thank you for tuning in. And, just remember, if you can't find that motivation or inspiration for yourself today, maybe just go out and try to be that motivation or inspiration for someone else. And we'll see you again next time.